Welcome back to Beeranid 40K. Today we continue our look at every unit in the Space Marine faction and kill team with a look at the Primaris Eliminators. If this is your first time here, I'm going datasheet by datasheet for every unit that's available to this team. And I'm currently ranked #1 in the world for ITC with the Astartes faction for 2020 competition. I love this team. I've given them a lot of thought, and my hope is to help you win more games with them. We're going to look at the datasheet itself, talk about some of the basics of this guy, and then we're going to go into the tabletop simulator program where there is an actual 3D model of a kill team board and kill team models, and I'm going to show you some things that is available to these guys and what you can do with them in your kill teams. So if that sounds good, if you like having kill team content in your life, hit that like button, subscribe, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. So first we'll look at the data sheet. You'll see here that there's two different models basically on this data sheet, a chassis that you can build from. You have the Eliminator at 18 points and the Eliminator Sergeant for 19 points. These can be a leader, that's a sergeant only. They can be comms, they can be a scout, they can be sniper, or they can be a veteran. They cannot be a demolitions, sadly. We'll talk about that, why that would matter in a moment. But sniper and leader tends to be the ways that I use them. Veteran is also something that is interesting. It was more applicable in Arena in the old days. Again, we'll get into why in just a moment. If you're still playing that way, if for example, Nova doesn't change some things and they continue running Arena just straight out of the box, there's some really broken stuff that these guys can do, unless it gets FAQ'd. So yeah, let's talk about these guys. They come basically armed stock with a bolt sniper rifle, bolt pistol, frag grenades, and crack grenades. You can only take one sergeant, but they can also replace the sniper rifle with a las fusel. We'll talk about that. The Eliminator Sergeant can replace their bolt sniper rifle with a las fusel or instigator bolt carbine, which I'm kind of falling in love with. I'm fanboying over that weapon a little bit. Doesn't seem amazing, but I like it. We'll cover that in a moment. So when you buy these guys base, included in their cost comes a Camo Cloak. So with Camo Cloak, when an opponent makes a hit roll against you with a shooting attack, and you're also obscured, you take an additional -1 and put that modifier on that to hit roll. So these guys are -2 to hit in cover unless they have an Auspex, an Omnispex, a recon drone, something that can take away obscured penalties. So because of this, I'm starting to relook at the Tactical Marine Gunner with a plasma rifle that's in my roster. I take a lot, and I'm thinking to myself, well, 3 more points. I get an extra wound. I go from 1 wound to 2. I get an extra attack. I'm -2 to hit. It's just like, man, I'm really starting to like these guys. But even more importantly is the concealed position rule that says when you set this model up during deployment, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches from any enemy deployment zone. Which there is some dirty stuff that is possible with this. If the TO was not careful, if they're just running things out of a book for or something like that, there is some nasty stuff that is available just because of that concealed position. And even though they've tried to change things to balance around this, there is still some nastiness, and we'll get into that. So let's look at these weapons here. So again, stock, they come with the bolt sniper rifle. Important, a model firing a bolt sniper rifle does not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for that target being long ranged. Okay, so there is no long range. You have a 36-inch range. If they're outside of 18, you don't take a -1 there. Really cool. And in addition, you have the 3 different profiles that you can choose here. So when you make the shot with this weapon, it's kind of like the Death Watch. It has a special issue ammunition kind of a component here where you get to say what kind of bullet that gun is firing. The first is the execution round, 36-inch range. All of these have 36-inch range. It's heavy one. All of these, again, are heavy profile. But what's interesting here is heavy, normally when you move, you'll take a -1 to your hit rolls. You'll take a penalty because you moved and shot a heavy weapon. This, you add 2 to the hit rolls for that weapon. So you can normal move with this guy, take a -1 penalty, but still be hitting on a 2 or above on a 6-sided die. Really cool. And in addition, this weapon can target models that are not visible to the bearer. So normally with a big scary gun, people can try to get out of LOS of that, right? Yes, sure, you need a 6 to hit if you cannot see that model, but there's something magical about always getting to roll anyway. You still get to roll. Even if it's not great odds that you're going to hit, at least you get to take the shot, and that's more than a lot of weapons can say. So again, execution round. It's one shot, strength 5, AP 1, 1 damage. Next, you go to what I tend to think is probably my favorite, which is the Mortis round. It's a heavy one, again, only one shot, but it's strength 5, AP 2, and instead of 1 damage, it's D3 damage. So when you're seeing how many damage this thing does, you roll a die, a 6-sided die. A 1 and a 2 is 1 damage, 2 and a 3 is 2 damage, or 3 and a 4, I mean, is 2 damage, and 5 and a 6 is 3 damage. So in addition to that, you can go up to 3 damage, but if you make a hit roll of 6 for this weapon, it inflicts a mortal wound in addition to its normal damage. So you could be doing 3 wounds and a mortal wound, and one shot, for example, a Lictor or something with 4 wounds, a Tyranid Warrior with 3 wounds. It's pretty interesting. Now, again, you need that 6, and this is why I was kind of sad to see that these guys couldn't be a Demolition Specialist, because a Demolition Specialist, if the enemy model is obscured when you're shooting, you take a +1 to wound, which would make this thing do the mortal on a 5, and then you could pay another CP for the custom ammo tactic available to the Demolition Specialist. Any Demolition Specialist has this, which would have given it another +1, which would have made the wound roll of 4 up for that weapon, inflict a mortal wound in addition to its normal damage. Sadly, that is illegal. There's plenty of other things that you can stack that on. It hurts that you can't do it here, but hey, it is what it is. It's just, if they ever add that, look out for that, because you could be doing 50-50 odds of every wound roll doing a mortal in addition to D3 damage. It would be pretty cool. Lastly, for the bolt sniper rifle, we have the hyper frag round, which is kind of what allows this, the thinking, I think, behind this profile is that it allows this to be kind of a take-all-comers kind of a unit, right? You have the elite killing kind of a thing with the execution round and the mortis round. The mortis round, more likely, you're putting that on an elite target, something that has a good save, something maybe with multiple wounds. The execution round is for when there's been a penalty, right? Like maybe you moved, maybe they are obscured from you. Anything like that. Maybe they're a Mandrake from the Drukhari kill team that has a -1 to hit base. So you can easily be at -3 to hit, put +2 back onto that, and only be taking a -1 penalty with that execution round. The hyper frag round is D3 shots. So it's going to be 2 statistically, could be 3, could be 1. On average, it's going to be 2 shots. That you give up the AP, but usually with the multiple shots, when you would be taking that is because all of a sudden you're facing something unexpected. Example, Death Guard. When you look at their roster, a lot of times you'll see they have the ability to spam Poxwalkers, or they could go very elite. Maybe they'll bring Terminators. Maybe they'll bring just the Plague Marines or something. They'll have a couple Flails, couple Gunners, and maybe only a couple Poxwalkers. So because you don't know what they're going to bring when you look at that roster, it's not giving you information competitively. Having the ability to do D3 shots against the Poxwalkers and do an execution round or a mortis round or something like that against a tougher target is kind of cool, and it makes this guy able to swing into different kinds of lists. Or you can say, hey, bolt sniper rifle sounds good, but I have 5 points burning a hole in my points wallet. You could take the last fusel for an additional 5 points. It's too expensive for me in most games. It's hard to make this work in my roster because it's got edge cases. Man, the edge cases are good. When this does apply, it's really interesting. So it has been worth the points because of what that weapon does with concealed deployment and all of that. But that is strength 8, AP 3, flat 3 damage, not D3 damage, flat 3. So you're rolling 3d6 on that injury roll, looking for a 4, a 5, or a 6 to take him out of action. Disgusting. Really nice, really good. Still only one shot, but it's like a plasma on steroids, overcharged plasma on steroids that you don't risk losing your guy to. It's like always having that overcharged shot, and in fact, it's even +1 damage on that. So it's worth a look, and I would definitely build up one of those models, have it around, because you never know what the packet's going to look like, for each event, and one might come along where you say, yeah, this is really good. And again, in Tabletop Simulator, just a moment, I'll show something nasty with the last fusel. All right, next and finally, we have the Instigator Bolt Carbine, which is the weapon that's available to the Sergeant only. It's Assault 1, Strength 4, AP 1, and flat 2 damage. Why do I like this weapon so much? For one, it's assault. Astartes are kind of starved for assault profile weapons, right? We have the auto bolt rifle, we have the shotgun, we have the flamer, and we have the melta. Until then, that was kind of pretty much it. But this, you can run and gun. Assault, you can advance and still shoot those kinds of weapons. And so that's really cool, because if you had a bolt gun, a stalker, any of those kinds of guns, you cannot advance and shoot the way that you could with this. In addition, it's got a pretty cool profile, because it's like a normal bolter on steroids with the AP1 and 2 damage. Flat 2 damage is just so good. That's the same damage as an overcharged plasma. You're not risking killing yourself. AP-1 isn't amazing, but it's kind of the magic number. It's so much better to have AP-1 than AP-0, because things like orcs, a lot of times they're not even getting a save. You know, some of the knobs might and stuff like that, but anything with a 6 up, they don't even get a chance to save. And even things with a 5 up, yeah, they're fishing for the 6. They need a 6 to stay alive when one of this has gone through. And if you can pass through those barriers in your way to the injury roll, you've got the 2 damage to roll. You're rolling 2d6 to try and take that model out of action, looking for a 4 up in most cases. That's just great. I love it. It's a good weapon, something to consider. So when you would take this a lot of times is if you have a plain intercessor on your list already and a couple points that aren't allocated to anything special, because it's just a couple more points than a plain intercessor, and you get the better gun. So that's kind of where I'm looking at this from. Yes, it is more than the intercessor. Okay, it does cost more than the intercessor. It's not too much, but a few points can get you a lot in this faction, so it is something to consider. But you would have the -2 to hit, you would have the better gun. You know, a lot of stuff with the intercessors, you're not able to run and shoot, or if you can run and shoot with the auto bolt rifle, you're not AP1, you're not 2 damage. So it's just it's something to me that I think it's kind of like if you had a floating intercessor in your list that wasn't a specialist or something like that, and you can find the extra points, it's better to be having 2 damage, AP1, and -2 to hit and cover. So with that said, let's get into Tabletop Simulator. We'll take a look at what these can do on the table. So now let's take a look at concealed deployment, what it can do for your games, and kind of how this one mechanic has forced the development of the game quite a bit. In Arena, you used to see deployments like this, right? You look at that first mission in the Arena map, it's interlopers, and this is the deployment zone. You get this one square. And so I've put some, Drukhari models down here. It's probably not an exact list, but it's just like what you would kind of see, just some racks and mandrakes, stuff like that. So what we would see is that basically there were 2 things to doors. One, if there was an enemy model within 1 inch of the door, and you did not start your turn there, if you normal moved up, you could not even attempt to open that door normally because that there was an enemy there. So you would wait till next turn. Mandrake now tries to open that door, and this guy gets to try and stop it on a 5 up. So if he would fail, and it would open, but can the Mandrake get through? And look how he was positioned in the middle there. A 25 mil base can't even fit through there. So they even needed to be careful about where they had positioned so that they could at least get a charge. Otherwise, now it's turn 3 and there's nothing going on. So really rough. What it forced a lot of times was the veteran. The veteran had to get to this door before any enemies got there. So he would move up. He would pop that door open. Now the game starts and everybody's okay. He can move on to this objective. These guys can advance out, whatever. Right? That's the way Arena worked in the past. But after Elites, when the Eliminators came, that started to be an issue. Because with Arena, the doors started closed, and it was illegal to measure through doors. Right? I could not measure past this door. So what we saw was that the Eliminators could just deploy up against it. Not a veteran move, anything like that, and they are in place before the veteran move, so even if the Mandrake moves, he can attempt to open that with his veteran move because he did not start within 1 inch. So the turn rolls over, now turn 1 starts, he gets to open the door, but that's his movement. He can't charge afterwards. And again, did he place himself to where another 25 mil base can get past? He needed to be made sure that he was over. So now that's turn 1 gone. Maybe they could get 1 charger in, something like that. Whatever. It was just a mess. So what TOs started to do is they started to say, okay, everything still applies, but now you have to physically be 9 inches from the DZ. Makes sense, right? You can measure to the deployment zone, and for the purposes of deployment, you could measure through a door. So you would say 9 inches away from there would be about up to that box, right? So Eliminator just deploys there. You make him a veteran spec, and then before the game starts, he moves up. So he moves here. Their veteran moves, tries to open the door. Oh, he can't. We have the same situation. So it didn't solve the problem. And people say, well, what if the Mandrake wins initiative, right? Because you would roll, wins the roll off. Because if you both need to do a veteran move, you would roll off. You'd see who rolls highest, and then the player that won would get to make his veteran move first, even if the other guy wants to make a veteran move. But again, we still have the same situation because Mandrake moves up. That's his veteran move. He opens the door. Eliminator moves here. And they cannot move to within 1 inch of an enemy model, right, without declaring a charge. So even if he was further back, they still can't get out of this DZ unless they charged him. So then the answer became, let's leave doors open, right? Let's just start with everything open. Because then, you get your veteran move, you're out of your DZ, you get to normal move and the phase, you would at least get a chance, which does make sense. Except that there's still stuff that these guys can do. So here we have the BAO pack, a more modern version of Arena. And now we're starting with the doors open, right? Well, the issue is still kind of there because 9 inches out, you still have to measure to the DZ. Okay. Eliminator starts here. And if he gets initiative, it's the same thing. He just comes in. And you can't get through without declaring him as a charge. So you could totally block off some of the things, the objectives that you're trying to get to. Another point where you would probably do that is something like here. Because again, 9 inches out, okay, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so you could be even closer. Anyways, the goal is that they can't move through without coming to within 1 inch of you unless they declare a charge. And at that distance, a charge is going to be hard to make. Maybe they make one guy, something like that. So you have that going on. But now let's say you took a Eliminator with a las fusel and you deploy him here. He's looking at the leader, right? And I hope that they did the right veteran move to this side to try and stop that 3 damage, strength 8 thing, because this could be a sniper specialist. Sniper specialist gives himself a +1 to hit for 1 CP. That would mean he would be hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, wounding on 2s, no save for most things in the game, and a flat 3 dice on the injury roll, looking for a 4, a 5, or a 6 usually to take somebody out of action. So that is devastating to have looking at the leader turn 1. And the best part is he's probably not alone. Because you have other things in your Astartes list, right? You have the veteran specialist who can move 12 inches with a jump pack, fly 12 inches plus 6. There we go. So he's moving 18 inches before the game starts, right? So we would say like 6, 12, and then like 8 more inches. Something like that. Just ridiculous. And we have the same situation where it's like, okay, it can't move through on this side. This thing's blocked here. Maybe there's an Eliminator here. And so they need hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more on the other side. They only have one objective that they can really take. And then again, this is before the game started. This guy has a 7-inch charge to here. Where is the leader? The leader's going to be somewhere in there. Or maybe, hey, maybe you're playing Space Wolves, right? And with them, the company veterans can take jump packs. So you could have a guy with a flamer and a lightning claw that is moving 12 inches plus d6 inches before the game starts. He can fall back and shoot. So maybe you don't even shoot. Maybe you just come in here. You say, charge me. You get Overwatch on all these guys when they come in. Okay, he declares charge on him. D6 auto hits. Let's see how many hit. Okay, 4. Wounding on 3s. Where's the 3s? Okay, so 2 wounds go through. I mean, before the game starts, you've locked all of this off, prevented movement. They're in a hard situation here, and you're looking at the leader. So let's see what happens if you kill the leader. Well, we look at this objective. Old School. Old School says score 1 VP if you kill an enemy model in the first battle round, right? So the primary objective is hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more. So you'd be getting a point for kill 1. You'd be getting a point from Old School for killing in the first battle round. If you kill the leader, it says, in addition, score 2 VP for killing the enemy's leader. So if you kill a leader, that kill is now worth 4 points. If it was killed with the Las Fusel, that's a weapon with 2 or more damage. There's a secondary called Obliteration that says at the end of the battle round, score 1 victory point if you roll 2 or more dice in an injury roll. Well, you'd be rolling 3 there, so that's a point for that. That's your 5th point. And then you could have him drop a token for bounty hunters. So where he dies, a token drops. He just says, oh, I'm dead, and he disappears, and a token goes there. If you can pick that up, that's another point, right? So there's so much pressure here, guys, that is available from here. And when you start having stacks on the secondaries and things like that, not letting them out of their DZ. I mean, let's say they took positional secondaries and they need to get to like board corners or something like that. You know, they need to get to like, okay, I need to be in this quarter, I need to be in this quarter, whatever to score. It's not happening because they're locked in their DZ that first turn. I've been doing weird stuff here. I've been taking like 87 points at 125, even though it's 125 points. Occasionally I'll do something as low as 87 points because every 10 points under that you are in the game compared to your opponent's list, you start the game with +1 CP. So you're starting the game with 5 CP. So you're just like running up here. Let's say that they get a charge in. Well, guess what? You would get to fight first with decisive, you know, stuff like that. You can fight again. You can fight twice with Honor the Chapter. Fight a second time. And again, there's something so special about not needing CP to leave your DZ, right? Because when you're playing Arena, the close confines rules, deep striking and reserves is illegal. So this becomes the exclusive domain of the Astartes, where I just get to be outside my DZ. This deployment zone that everybody else would need to follow that rule doesn't apply to you with these models. You know, another big thing is it used to be like you would roll you'd advance before the game starts with a veteran, right? You'd say, okay, veteran, I have a gun instead of a thing. I'm going to advance 6 + 2. So I get a mighty 8 inches. Where does that get me? Oh, that's not very far. What if I want to overlook this objective? Because this is right near their deployment zone, right? You don't need to advance. You don't need to spend the veteran CP. You just come there. You just say right there, boom, come take it. That is amazing. That is so special. And it's something that hopefully, this helps you. Hopefully it kind of opens your eyes to what's possible with these models. Just starting on an objective, starting scoring points, starting with LOS on the enemy's leader, and then the conjunction kind of a thing that works together with the veterans and things like that, getting to here turn 1 and then you can advance up, you have a flamer, just like stuff, all of this working together is really tricksy and really unexpected. And you can have a lot of pressure and you can clamp them in their deployment zone and you can stack secondaries with the different kills that are possible. Hold 1, hold more. They're not getting anything more than hold 1. So let's say you run a scout onto these objectives. You can do that from your deployment zone. Let's see what that is. That would be 6 inches that he'd move plus. Okay, so he gets a 6. Right? So he just comes onto that objective. So you have all these other guys doing the offense. So now you're getting hold 1. They're not getting anything. And then you take your leader and you put your leader on this objective. Now you've got hold 1, hold more. You're threatening everything in their DC. You've got like flamers and relic blades and any kind of thing that you would want, whatever, depending on what sub-faction you're running. You've got a 3 damage weapon looking into their deployment zone. So, and that's in a format where kills score victory points. So there could be kill 1, kill more. Killing an enemy leader is worth 4 points with that secondary for or worth 2 points for a total of 4 with that old school. Making a kill in turn 1 brings that to a 5th point. You get Obliterate, that's a 6th point. They drop a Bounty Hunter token when they die, and then so next turn when you come in, you pick up that Bounty Hunter token. That's a 7th point. And you're starting the game this way, basically. That's what the Eliminators make possible. It's really something that, if people aren't expecting it, I think it can be a big thing to catch them out. And so I hope that you found this interesting. I hope you found it helpful. I hope it helps you in your games. If it's something that you haven't been running or thinking about, even if you're not playing Astartes, it's something you need to be aware of, especially in Arena, because depending on the rule set that is used, all of this could become possible. As far back as the beginning of this, when I was saying, hey, you can lock somebody in their DZ with that move. If like, for example, if Nova doesn't change some of the things this year, if they run just out of the book Arena for half of the games like they did last year, this could be a really big issue, because the Astartes can just lock you in your DZ with the Eliminators. You take 2 Eliminators, boom, 18 points times 2, and now you have the entire board to get hold 1, hold 2, hold more. So leave me a comment if you like this video. Let me know if you see something different or something that I missed, because I'm always looking to get better at this faction as well. And as always, if you like this kind of content, give it a like, subscribe if you like having Kill Team content in your life. I have a Kill Team podcast available to patrons if it's something you're interested into. We talk to the best players in the world, #1 ranked, tourney winners and all that stuff, some of the best thinkers of the game. So if that sounds cool to you, then check out the podcast. It's available on the Patreon for Beeranid. And with that, I wish you all the very best. I hope you're out there maybe playing some tabletop simulator and winning some Kill Team games with your Astartes. And I'll talk to you again soon.